Welcome to the solution video for the extension methods challenge. Let's go right to Visual Studio, and we're going to create a new project that will be a .NET Core Console project. So .NET Core Console app, and let's call this the console UI is fine, and this is the extension method challenge. There's a solution name. We'll hit create, and once we're done here, we'll add our console read line at the end and eliminate the hello world. There we go. And now we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new class, so a new file. And let's just call this extensions. Since this is a demo app, we're not going to get too complicated with this, but public static class, we're going to get static so that everything inside of it will be static as well. And it can't be instantiated. And then public static, and the first one is going to be print. And so we're going to say it's return void. And we're going to say print this string input, like so. There we go. So with an extension method, the first parameter has to have a this in front of it, and that indicates that this will be attached to the string type. So whenever you have a string, you can now say print. And we're just going to say console write line input. That's really all there is to it. Let's test this out. So we're going to say hello world dot print, like so. And now if we run this, it should print out hello world to the console. And in fact, it does. It says hello world. Cool. Now, it wouldn't have to be just in quotes. We could say, string my name equals Timothy, like so, and then we could say my name dot print. That works as well. Okay, so we run this, and it's going to say hello world and Timothy. Let's just change that font a little bit. It's a little small right now. So font size, wow, it's 36 it says. Does not look like it's 36, does it? Don't know why it's quite that small. That says, it says 28. Interesting. Well, there we go. There's 36. So hello world and Timothy. Okay. So that takes care of the first one. The next one we had was excite. So public static void excite. Also a string, so this string input. And for this one, we're going to do a replace. And actually, we're going to return it, so we're going to return it as a string. All right, so let's do this. Let's say input.replace, and the old char is going to be the dot, and the new char is going to be the exclamation point, and that's going to return a string. So we can just say return that replace. That's it. We could do a different variable, but just returning this value is fine, I think. So now with that, we can point. So we have now completed the primary challenge. That was fairly simple. Let's move on to the chaining. So we're going to create a person object. So add a new class called person model and make it public and put our 3 properties in here. First name, last name, age. Okay. And now we can do it right in extension still. There's no reason to go crazy on this. Let's create a public static person model. That's what it returns. Or say fill this person model input. What this will do is it will attach to the person model type and it will return a person model as well. Now, we don't have to return the person model in order to make changes to the model that was passed in. So if we made changes to this, it would still change the person model back here on program.cs. So we create a person model over here, make changes to it with our fill method, it would be changed back in program.cs. But we have to return it because we want to be able to chain on it. So even though we don't necessarily need to return it in order to have the changes be persisted, we still need to return it in order to chain. So with fill, we're going to say console.write, please enter your first name, and then say input.firstname equals console.readline. And then we'll do the same exact thing, but with last name. So last name, and this is last name. And then one more time, but a little bit different. String age text equals, please enter your age. And we're not going to do validation on this. We're going to assume they give us a valid age. So we'll say input.age equals int.parse age text, like so. And then at the end, we're going to return input. Okay, so all the modifications and then return that same object. So that should give us a filled out object. And then we need to chain that with another one, public static. We could make this one void, but I'm going to make it return person model so that we could chain it with other types as well. And we're going to say print this person model input. And what this will do is we're going to do a console write line. We'll say $, a couple double quotes. I'll say input.firstname space input.lastname is input.age space years old. That's it. And at the end of it, we will return input. And again, that's kind of overkill for our specific example, but it's more consistent with this first one, so we can chain these things together. So now we can comment this out so we don't need it to run. We can say person model person equals new person model. Okay, so we create a blank person. Then we say person.fill print. Now notice we have print up here and print down here. They're both the same name, but they're going to do different actions. And the reason why is because the print method up here attaches to a string, and the print method down here attaches to a person model. Since the signatures are different, we've overloaded this print, but since it attaches to something else, it's perfectly fine, and we can't accidentally run the wrong one. So now just print.fill. If we run this, it's going to say, please enter your first name, Tim, Corey, 40. Tim Corey is 40 years old. Okay, so we've chained those three together. Now let's collapse these down so we're not taking up too much space. Let's create our ones for double. So public static double, it's going to return a double. That's the result of whatever operation we're going to do. Now our first one is add this double input. And we're going to have a second input double, let's call it X. And we're going to return input plus X. We're going to do the exact same thing, but this time for subtract. And we're going to subtract X. We're going to do it again for multiply by. Notice I changed the wording here. So it's not multiply, it's multiply by. So add and subtract work on their own. Because subtract 3, that's how we talk. But we don't say multiply 8. We say multiply by 8. So with this, we're going to change the sign to multiply. And then one more for, again, divide by, changing that name a little bit, and do our division. Again, we're not going to worry about making sure we're not dividing by 0. That's not a concern for this demo. This is just about extension methods, not about creating really cool code inside them. Now with all this in place, we can comment out these two lines. No reason to create that object over again. And let's just create a number, 4.15 dot add 5, subtract 2, multiply by 8, divide by 3. Just to show off, yes, we can do add 5 more. Let's add 34 more. Okay? And let's wrap this whole thing. So I cut this out and wrap the whole thing in a console write line. So the result we printed out to the command line. What is that number? I'm not even sure. That number is 53.06 repeating. Okay, so we've now completed all those math operations on that number. And if you go through and do all the different actions, you'll find that yes, that's what the number is. Okay, so that's now operating on doubles. And that's chained together all those different pieces, and we're now done. So that's not very hard, right? Once you get extension methods and how they work, there's a couple things to think about. One is adding extra values. So in this case, we're passing in one value. Another is, what are you going to return? So for fill, you can overload or create extension methods for even types you don't control, like string. So a lot of power here, a lot of stuff you can do, and they're really, really simple to create. You don't use them for everything, but there are a lot of reasons why extension methods can be really powerful. This one right down here, I think really illustrates that. The idea that instead of saying, okay, wrap this in parentheses, pass those two numbers in, and get the value back, and then wrap that. No. Just dot add, dot subtract, dot multiply by, dot divide by. Makes it really easy to do math operations in a way that you understand. So, with that being said, that is the solution for the extension methods challenge. I hope you got it. I hope that you learned something new, or at least were able to stretch and grow your knowledge of extension methods. Thanks for watching, and as always, I am Tim Corey.